What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shuggy from Shook Earth Media, and today we are hitting the rumor mill yet again. We are looking at new leaks for Resident Evil 9. Now, of course, this is an anonymous post on 4chan, so grains of salt taken, okay? None of this should be taken as fact or anything, okay? So go into this with that mindset. But according to this article here, GG Recon, it is too good to be true. So what is this post that they link to? Here's the 4chan post. Let's read it through together. So apparently the working title is Resident Evil Apocalypse. Now, whether or not that is the actual title or that's just what they're calling it internally is not made clear here, but working title usually means that it's not the final title, but it could be. So you never know. Part of me expects the Roman numeral 9, IX, to be in the final title because that is consistent with the previous two in this trilogy. So I'm not sure that it's the final name, but who knows? Setting Ghost Town in the West, where a certain investigation will take place. Very vague, but Ghost Town in the West, I mean, sounds like a reasonable setting. Caves, river, small town, and camping site. Okay, so we're in the woods, in the wilderness. This is stuff we've seen before in the franchise, but usually we are inside buildings. So I would be interested to see a Resident Evil game with a bit more exteriors to it. That could be cool. Enemies will look like some kind of deformed creature with huge emphasis on body horror. Love the sound of it. They'll resemble mythological creatures with horns, and locals will call them Wendigo or Goatman. Now, Wendigo is a folklore figure. Let's take a look at what they look like. Okay, so this is Wendigo. It's kind of like, I don't know what creature you'd call that. They got like dog ones, werewolf ones, but they always have horns. They seem to mostly walk on 2 feet. And they sometimes use their hands as well to supplement. But yeah, this is kind of what a Wendigo looks like. So just for reference, enemies will be mimicking human voices and could even transform into friendly NPC. Ooh, shapeshifters. That could be really interesting. We are in the realm of Resident Evil now, where in the previous game we had creatures that can mess with your mind. We had some creatures that could be seen as transforming. I mean, of course, we had Miranda and all of that. So, and even Ethan himself, right? So that is interesting to me. They can perfectly mimic human voices, and the player will be first forced to look at their behavior to know that they're enemies. And now I love the idea of ambiguity here. That kind of ties in with Outlast. If you guys have ever played that game, Outlast is very horrific because of the ambiguity. You don't know whether these crazy people at the insane asylum are going to attack you or not, and that ambiguity really adds a lot of tension, and I love the center on horror that we're seeing here. Monsters can get close to the player, appearing as friendly NPC if that person died and the player didn't see it. That would be interesting. That sounds like a bit more free form than Resident Evil these days typically is. Resident Evil nowadays is a lot more on rails. Even back in the day, it was somewhat on rails, but you had a bit more exploration in 1 and 2. So that would be interesting to see. Forest is creepy and unsettling. Naturally, easy to get lost without a map, of course. Sometimes you'll hear that somebody walk behind you. Grammar is not great in this, but the creature isn't there when you turn around, and sometimes it's there for real. I love the idea of, again, ambiguity, and the idea of things behind you and the fake outs. Love it. Especially if it's more freeform and less predictable jump scares. That would be really interesting. Player can force some doors to open, lock them, barricade, and use melee breakable weapons. This is interesting. Force some doors to open. Not sure what that means. Whether you have to use an item, exhaust an item to force them open, or what. Locking is interesting. Barricading, we had that in the previous game. Would make sense for that to return. Melee breakable weapons is interesting to me. Typically, we don't really get melee weapons in Resident Evil. It's more of a Silent Hill thing. I like the idea of melee breakable weapons. Maybe we're using that more than ammo. I like the idea. It could be interesting. One of the early bosses is Barghast. It's a giant black dog with a twist. Let's Google this and see if it's a real thing. Let's take a look. Let's see here. Yeah, mythical creature. So again, tying in with the themes of mythical creatures. I was hoping there would be a picture there. Okay, here we go. So kind of a werewolfy thing, but distinct from the lichens we got previously. Oh, they're more like dogs, I suppose. This is Gwent from. I was gonna say that looks familiar. This is Gwent from the Witcher series. So that's really cool. It's a giant black dog with a twist. That's kind of what that looks like, you know. Um, but less intelligent compared to other monsters. See, that's interesting because now in Resident Evil, ever since Resident Evil 4, the creatures have been a lot more intelligent. So it would be interesting to return, especially as a boss battle. I don't know how you get away with a boss battle being really dumb. So that's interesting to me. One of the main antagonists, singular, will be a woman named Glastig by the locals. She has a really beautiful design with green and gold ornaments and mourning green gown. Okay, sure enough, why not? The player will receive help from a woman slash bioweapon named Holder. I find it interesting that a bioweapon is an ally. We had, of course, Ethan being a bioweapon more or less. So we have this new realm where there's a bit more ambiguity about which side a bioweapon might be on. Previously to this, bioweapon, bad, kill it. Now there seems to be a bit more ambiguity, and maybe there's a bit more intelligence there, and they might be able to think for themselves. She'll serve as a guide through the forest, tell you some of the town's history when you show her some treasures slash keys slash puzzle pieces you find along the way. Maybe this character is somewhat of a replacement for the shopkeeper, who I theorize to be a bioweapon as well. So that we might find out more about that soon, actually. She will also teach the player different herb combinations. There will be 7 herb types, which will be combined with each other to achieve various effects. 7? I don't know. Are we getting into this makes it sound like it's a bit more free form, especially with the wandering around in the woods and all that. So 7 herb types, maybe it's a bit more complicated in the gameplay terms. I'm very curious. The monsters fear this woman just as they fear and respect Glastig and won't come close. This serves as an explanation as why they can't enter safe zones or rooms. I think it's funny that they need an explanation because they've never needed that before. Why all of a sudden do we need an explanation for that? The plot will be about 9th moon phase, and the nickname Apocalypse came from that idea. The moon serves as this game's symbol and will probably appear as a logo. And that maybe ties in with werewolves or something. And of course, full moons always are relevant when it comes to horror stories. So the moon serves as the game symbol. That's interesting to me. Now, what is really interesting, and notice there moon phase 9 here up at the top. But what's interesting to me is that these leaks do not at all mention Rose or anything going on with her, because to me, with the daughter of a bioweapon, now we know that she probably has some sort of stuff like that in her. And I speculated previously that she might be the daughter of Miranda. Remember at the end of the boss battle, Miranda never corrected Ethan when Ethan said that that Rose is her daughter. She seems to be obsessed with that. And we know that Miranda was taking the form of Ethan's wife, Mia. So maybe Rose is actually Miranda's daughter. As a speculation, we didn't really hear confirmation either way from Mia. Could be totally off base on that, but that was a theory I came up with previously when I played the game before. So, but yeah, the fact that we don't hear about Rose in this kind of makes me a little skeptical, because to me, Rose almost seems like a character that's going to have some sort of special abilities, and that brings us into a new era of Resident Evil where we have characters with superpowers, kind of. So that's kind of what I'm expecting, especially with this new DLC. We are now in a third-person perspective. The Rose DLC that is coming out in October is going to be from a third-person perspective, and I think the third-person perspective would make sense for a game where Rose would have some special abilities that might take advantage of having a greater field of view. So that's the only thing that really makes me pause about this, is the fact that we don't really know. So let's take a look at this article here. They said, what is the Resident Evil 9 leak? And here, the license plate of the APC in Resident Evil Village is NX23APO. So this is the car that we saw at the end of Resident Evil Village, the little teaser at the post-credit scene, basically, where we saw Rose all grown up and stuff. So this is people interpreting what that might mean. NX means next, 23 equals 2023 fiscal year, differentiating the calendar year from the fiscal year. Fiscal year, for those who don't know, you as a business can decide when your fiscal year starts. And I'm not sure what Capcom's is offhand. So it's not the same thing as saying that the game will come out in 2023. I find it unlikely that we will see 2 Resident Evil games in 1 year. Of course, we have in March Resident Evil 4 Remake coming out. Maybe that was the original plan, though. So who knows? APO Apocalypse, I mean, that almost certainly seems like the confirmation there that Apocalypse is the code name. So I find that interesting. No official release date, of course. Let's see what else we got here. Going straight in, the game is reportedly going under Resident Evil Apocalypse. So good luck squeezing IX into the title. See, even this article is mentioning that. So they're just summarizing what we already read. That's definitely a possibility that all of the above is legit, but then again, it's just as likely it's an elaborate hoax for the clout. Definitely agree with this article. Making us lean toward the latter is the fact that there's no mention of any characters from previous outings. They're making the same point I did. No mention of Rose, no mention of Mia, no mention of Chris, no mention of anything. So, yeah, many expect Rose to be the MVP here. I expect Rose fully to be the main character because right at the end they said the father's story is over. It's now the daughter's story. Rose will be the main character. I'm 100% certain of that. The ever-expanding canon of Resident Evil also means we're guessing Chris Redfield will return. I would agree. What about the likes of Ada Wong or Jill Valentine? I don't know who is going to show up. I would speculate that Chris is going to return and probably somebody else too. Somebody we might not think of at first. So I'm curious to see. Then again, the mention of the moon and Apocalypse playing a part is interesting given that the RE logo, the RE engine logo includes the moon. This is a fantastic point. And I didn't even think about it until just now. But that logo has been in use since Resident Evil 7. Maybe even before that. I'm not entirely sure. But I don't know that they would have had it planned out all the way back then. But maybe they did. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, that's pretty much all we got. According to this, it says Resident Evil 9 finally set to bring back Jill Valentine. Let's see how they justify this. We already know that developers cut plans for Ada Wong to appear. That was in Resident Evil Village. That was revealed last year, I believe. So according to somebody on Twitter, Old Wesker at GodComplex013, Jill will play a huge role, either Outrage or Apocalypse. They're saying Outrage might be the name here. Dusk asked to keep it on the server, but it's been months. We should be good. Okay. So that is interesting. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you believe this leak? I'm skeptical myself, but I can't wait to learn more about this game, and I can't wait to see Resident Evil 4 Remake later this year. So, huge fan. It's a big time for Resident Evil fans, and hopefully we can forget that Netflix show ever existed. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you want to see more Resident Evil coverage, definitely hit the sub button and like, and I hope to hear your opinions in the comment section down below. And with that, it's been your boy Shuggy, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.